get the frustration, you get the blame, you get the annoyance, you get the withholding of sex, you get the withholding of money, you get the canceling of dates, because instead of existing and instead of living together, they're just existing together.
Mhm. Hmm. Well, I mean, this is the thing with relationships, right? It's mostly gray. There is no real black and white. Everything I'm saying, it's not the truth. It's really just in my experience. Because, listen, I get it. Like, I have been very blessed to have a partner who has a very similar values. And a lot of times we marry or, shack up with people that we're not aware that have very different values than us until and then 6 months, 2 years down the line, you're like, oh, hold on, we don't actually hold the same value. And so that can be very challenging for people, especially when you're very clear about what your value is. I have a friend who, she's like vegan and her husband is a hunter and he smokes, and she gets really upset that he does those things, but he was always that. He didn't change. That's who he was in the beginning, and now she's the one who's saying this is not okay and you need to change. So to your question, I think it's important for us to be independent people. I don't think we're required to be codependent, or especially when your partner is in a very, very different space than you are. And I think that's why a lot of people disconnect from their partner, because their way of being is so can occur as toxic and destructive and things like that. However, a lot of times people, well, I would say I would invite people to look to see if there is something that they did that they can be responsible for. Because I'm clear when I read these write-ups or questions that people send me around the relationship, I'm clear that they did not marry their partner like that. They would have never married their partner if they were that terrible. So that happened over time, right? So there were conditions that caused this person to change to become who they are. So first, I think, looking first over here and going, okay, did I cause that? Did my husband shut down and stop talking and stop wanting to have sex because of something I did that I actually haven't cleaned up? There's a mess that is left out there, or an impact that I haven't taken responsibility for. And then the other piece is like, yeah, being independent is great, and knowing who you are and not letting someone else suck the life out of you. But also knowing, like, if that were me, if I was really struggling, wouldn't I want my partner to like try to pick me up and make me feel good, rather than trying to change me and tell me I'm wrong and tell me I'm screwing up? Like, wouldn't you want more compassion and grace and just someone to say, you know what, you're going through a hard time and I'm here for you? So it's such a dance, relationships, isn't it? But the key is like having both people committed to the same thing. And the only way you're going to know that is being in communication. And the only way to have proper communication is to be open and to be vulnerable. And so many of us have this hard shell that we place ourselves inside, because we're so afraid to be hurt. We're so afraid to be rejected. We're so afraid to be abandoned, especially if we have issues when we were kids of abandonment. That will show up like that. Even if you have the best partner in the world, if you got stuff that you haven't dealt with, it's going to show up in your relationship. And so that's why I always go back to make sure that you are good before you get into a relationship, and make sure that you're checking in over here before you start looking out here about where the problem is.